What's up, everyone? Welcome to ZSR. It's 2 a.m. in the morning for me, but hey, at this point we're all used to it. So what's up? And let's dive right into the game, as we're starting pretty much just around the corner. So let's dive into the game, let's check out what's going, and let's talk to the comms for today, to Mr. Dr. Bobtastic and to Mr. Amazing Ampharos. Hey guys, what up?
That's Dr. Mr. Bobtastic. No, I'm kidding.
Dr. Mr. Bobtastic. I'm sorry.
Hello, everybody. How's it going? My name is Dr. Bobtastic. Joining me today is one of the main developers for the entrance randomizer, and, quite a decent player at this himself. Understatement of the year, Amazing Ampharos. How's it going?
Things are going great. And, I'm proud of a lot of the work I've done here, but I gotta say there is only one person here with a doctorate in Zelda. But more importantly, I would say we're all.
All right, so we find the most common key in the game, the Palace of Darkness small key, inside Link's house. I guess if you counted the pot keys, Ganon's Tower keys might be more common.
If you count static keys, yeah, GT has one more, but who does that?
Nobody. Literally no one. And I just thought of it, because I'm dumb. Alright, so we found a hint inside the potion shop, and Megawott just doesn't care. Like, Megawott is not talking to that guy. I mean, maybe he thinks that guy charges you money. That one doesn't.
It might be that. I know the hint feature is very new, and I really tried to tell people as much as I could what's going on, but there's kind of a limit to the communication of how it works, Yeah,
like, you can only really fit so much text in the box. And, I mean, you could make a string as long as you wanted, but it would just take too long, I think.
That's a really good hint, too. That could be really significant to how things...
I'm sorry, I just missed it while I was looking at the map that Megawatt got. What was that hint?
A glove can be found on the pyramid.
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
So when you see that hint, if it were me, I would have two thoughts. My first thought, obviously, is that if I ever get a Moon Pearl, I'm going straight to Dark World and going straight to the Pyramid, which usually isn't your route. East Dark World's usually one of the last Dark World regions. Mm-hmm. But honestly, even without the Pearl, if there's a connector that goes to any of those 4 pod area entrances, you have a glove.
Go get the silly thing. Exactly. As long as you can get there, the logic will let you pick up that glove as a bunny. Absolutely.
But yeah, I would expect to see the players, well, especially Megawatt, who doesn't know, but Incoherent will probably be putting a fair bit of effort into looking for a Moon Pearl first. As soon as you have a Moon Pearl, anywhere in Dark World main's probably good. Like, you get in the Northwest, you just do the Kern jump and you get your glove,
Right. I still need to learn how to do that. Anyway, it's a good trick to know. There are also a few other ways of getting it. Like, I mean, for one, if you just had flippers, you could do it. Also, if you have boots, you can water walk off of the holes in Skull Woods. So that's another way to do it.
And of course, you have hammer. You can take your long route around from the south, which isn't bad because there's stuff to do on that route as well.
Right. Well, if we wanted to find bombs this seed, we know where to find them. The Hoarder Crab has them today, all day long. And
I'd like to point out a big difference in the strategies between the two players. Incoherent is largely branching out. He's prioritized bombs and he's done a lot of perimeter search. Megawatt's almost just trying to be really thorough with everything near Link's house, and he's kind of holding off on branching out. But yeah, we see kind of the evolution of this as Megawatt has found Eastern Palace and is making a actually pretty scary dive with only 3 hearts, while Incoherent has his big stack of bombs going into CAC, having learned that the well is at the lumberjack tree, which is, of course, terrible.
Absolutely. 5 items behind Aga Tower. Yeah, that sounds like a fun deal. And by fun, I mean nope.
It's even worse than it feels at first, because, like, if it's Ganon back there, like, no one wants to do Aga 1, but it's a simple situation.
You have to.
Like, I have played a lot of seeds where that well is there. You get the tools for Aga Tower late in the game, and then it's just nothing.
And yeah, it's just 3.5 minutes you threw down the drain just to get up Aga Tower. And a lot of people don't realize going into Eastern Palace with 3 hearts, I mean, that's generally how many you have, maybe 4 in NMG when you do this, but normally you have the lamp, so you can go through the dark room and actually react to things. Trying to do the dark room in the dark with 3 hearts, that can really cause you some potential grief.
Yeah, my general standard is I would really prefer to have 5 hearts or a lamp or a sword before making this play. Then I feel pretty safe. With Megawatt's equipment, it's doable, but it's also failable, so we'll see what happens.
Alright, he did seem to manage to go ahead and find the switch in the first room. Oh, there's Ice Palace over in the Northwest Snitch House.
And now we have kind of a reversal where Incoherent chooses not to read the very accessible hint in the Ice Palace entrance, which, may not matter, but we'll find out as things evolve, won't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't even have to get the Freezor's attention to read it. You can just walk straight up, read the silly thing, and leave. Megawatt getting the switch with 1 half a heart left, and Incoherent has found Hype Cave and located a bow and a glove and an ice rod, apparently.
So, yeah, that cave is what I would call pretty good. That also means, of course, the pyramid is going to be our mitts. I would expect for both players, that is a very easy to locate Hype Cave.
Yes, very much so. The only problem you might have is somehow running out of bombs when you get to Kakariko, but I mean, even then you got like a 50-50 shot at one of the bushes around there, so. Oh, hello! There's our mirror for Megawatt over in the Meyer Shed, which we found at what I recently found out is called the Lake Hylia Ferry, but I just consider it the cave near Eastern.
Yeah, the spoiler log names are not always the clearest in the world, but that mirror is actually really interesting tactically, because Incoherent found a glove in CAC. A very prevalent thing to do when you get an early glove is to route out the south with those 2 lift rocks. It could be a while before he decides the eastern area is the play, and that's the mirror, which, in my opinion, is the single most powerful item in the entrance randomizer.
Oh, yeah. Not only does it grant you access to certain areas, but it also gives you a much more efficient way of clearing out other entrances, and just generally cuts your time down by a great deal. So we found Misery Mire over at Eastern, and Incoherent has located the dam at the Overgrown House. To the left of this, we found the Skull Woods main entrance. Or around here, we found the Skull Woods main entrance, where he found a Castle Tower small key. Now, we were talking about that well earlier, and that just means we're just a little bit closer to getting there.
Othula, if this seed wants to make you do something that's difficult from a combat execution standpoint, it's laid us a bit of groundwork, hasn't it?
Yeah. Ending up with doing like a fighter sword moth could happen. Thankfully, it's not swordless mode, so we can't make Cane Moth happen, but, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of potential difficult combat situations coming up.
And Megawatt just completed his 4th heart container, while Incoherent has nearly finished clearing CAC and is still on 3s. So if you are forced into one of these early dungeons, it could be really dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I didn't hear you. I think you might have said it without coming through. But, you mentioned, we've seen Ice Palace, we've seen Misery Mire, we've seen the Back of Skull Woods. All of these places, very dangerous on low hearts. Hey, and there's the Turtle Rock Big Chest. Over at the library, and we found the potion shop at the Kakariko chest game. Okay, so now we have a cape and some arrows.
So I know a lot of players are kind of down on the magic cape as an item, but I think if you're clever with it, that's actually a pretty handy item. There's just a ton of little circumstances. It can keep you safe or let you slip through enemies quickly. And, with Quick Swap, it's just an L press or 2 away, right?
Yep. The trick with Quick Swap is, one, remembering that you have it on. So make sure you do that. And also, the real skill that you learn becomes important with Quick Swap, and to be fair, this is important in the normal game, I'm just bad at it, is actually knowing what you need next and swapping to it before you get there.
Now, we see Incoherent using Turtle Rock as a connector, which is totally outside of the logic.
Oh, absolutely.
Is the way he did it, because you would normally need a hook shot or a cane to pass through that entrance. It goes to that southeast corner of the Dark World, which is interesting. But just as interesting, I would observe, our pool of connectors is not very deep so far.
Yeah, very true. We may end up with a seed kind of like the other day I saw where, you had to have, like traditional Dark World access to get to the Dark World. Hammer, glove, moon pearl.
It's especially, it's interesting and a relief almost all at the same time, because we have a seed that's potentially a very early mirror seed, but connectors are usually what let you do a lot of interesting things with the mirror, so it's kind of a pairing there.
Right. You can always reach those dark ledges on Death Mountain, grant you some entrances there with the mirror as well. Just plenty of action that the mirror unlocks. But yeah, connectors are important for that. Just to get to the Dark World, of course, as well.
Of course, there's always my favorite move that people forget impressively often in the entrance randomizer, which is you can just go up normal Death Mountain and mirror to Hera.
Yep, that is totally a thing that people can do. And I'm not going to lie, I may have forgotten it once or twice myself. Alright, so Incoherent now headed west into the canyon area. We've got the 50 rupee cave here, which turns out to be the Smiths. And one more entrance north of here. And that is the Dark Sanctuary hint. Alright, so that tells us that I think that means Spiral Cave entrance.
Yes, Upper Spiral Cave will be one of the 2 caves with pots with just a bunch of 5 rupees in them. Either the one that has 20 rupees total or the one that has 50 rupees total. That's actually a pretty nice hint, I would say, because if you struggle to find that connector to Mimic Ledge, then knowing that the left spiral, or that upper spiral cave entrance is dead, can really just put your mind at ease when you have to take the drop from the top of Death Mountain.
Yeah, that's always a decision that I dread having to do. Oh, hello, we've got a sword at the bottle vendor.
I would say that's kind of a doubly interesting find, because that sword was there's not a lot of reason for Incoherent to go back to Kakariko. Most things there require several more items to work with. It's a long trip for one item, and it turns out to be a pretty good item.
So, did Incoherent... My brain must be messing up. Maybe it was Megawatt that did the Houlihan room.
Yeah, I don't think Incoherent has Houlihaned yet, and
with
I just don't think he had much money at all going through CAC. He got it at some point, but he just didn't go for the vendor, and that could be pretty relevant to our situation going forward.
Alright, so we got the pod map, and apparently one of the entrances to Hyrule Castle is at Ganon's Tower.
So that's going to be a really powerful thing to go through Hyrule Castle and reach the summit of Dark Death Mountain with the mirror in this seed. So certainly Hyrule Castle becomes a big priority. Have we seen it yet?
That connector, I'm not sure. I want to think I saw it, but I don't know for sure. Anyway, the connector that Incoherent just took through Spectacle Rock Cave, however, was not what we call a very useful connector. It's basically the zonk of connectors.
It was an important discovery of where value wasn't.
There is that. I'll give you that. Speaking of value, Megawatt has just found Thieves Town over on West Death Mountain, and the boots inside.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting scenario, because I feel like Incoherent has checked more total entrances, but certainly the entrances that Megawatt has chosen have paid off more in the early games, so that could be a bit of a story as we develop here.
I mean, for the most part... Oh, yeah, there's Hyrule Castle. It was at the Ice Rod area. And the Quake Medallion is apparently on Sahasrara, so if it turns out one of our entrances is blocked by that, we would require the green pendant to acquire that medallion.
Now, that's the sort of hint I really like to see, because realistically, you probably don't need Quake. And if you end up needing it eventually, you know exactly where it is. So it really solves two problems for you at once.
Alright, so Megawatt located at Aga Tower is going to do the Dark Maze to acquire that item. The Dark Maze itself, you can fairly reasonably get through. It's basically just down all the way, left all the way, up all the way, left all the way, down all the way, left all the way, up all the way. But it's kind of a pain otherwise. And if you haven't practiced it, you might take a little bit of damage while you're doing so. Alright, bombs for Megawatt. We also note that Incoherent did find a connector under the lift spot on over by Ice Rod Cave, and that connected to the solitary ledge in the Dark Death Mountain area. If only Incoherent had the mirror, he could have made good use of that.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame because if you put it together, Megawatt with his mirror would really benefit from being in Incoherent's Hyrule Castle right now. Incoherent being in Hyrule Castle would really like to have Megawatt's mirror.
Hey, the flippers were at the waterfall ferry. That's not allowed. Oh, wait.
Those flippers are actually... See, normally I find flippers a really scary item to see early, because if flippers are in your initial setup progression, you're like, how am I going to get 500 rupees this early in the game? But in this case, where money's been pretty free, this gives Megawatt a pretty obvious and high-value sequence of plays he can make.
Yeah. And, you know, to be fair, having the glove put Zora in logic, so we didn't even need those flippers. But you really would like to have the flippers to do all the other stuff up that direction.
On Megawatt's side as well, we get a play. I really like making this play in general, where you just check West Dark Death Mountain, because even if you're a bunny, it's likely you'll see there's nothing you need there. In this case, we saw a cave we have to come back for. But you really want to rule those out, because those are two of the easiest entrances to Orphan in the game, in my opinion.
Right. And of course, you could always end up with one of those scenarios where you can do something in one of those things as a bunny. Like, you know, you run into Sick Kid and you've got a bottle, or... I mean, not this seed, but you run into Hype Cave and you talk to the guy in the front and he has your Moon Pearl. Something like that. Because bunny logic is fun.
So I'd also like to point out kind of a little bit of comedy we got here, whereas Megawatt didn't mirror up to Tower of Hera, which would conventionally be considered a bit of a mistake, but he save warped Mountain Cave and walked right out of the Tower of Hera.
Well, there you go. And we've got Laser Bridge. This was at Mimic Cave because he connected to the dark connector ledge somehow.
Yeah, and 4 very clean laser skips later, Megawatt's on his way. That's actually a very easy entrance to return to with what else Megawatt already knows.
Yeah.
Because the connector to get there is just the Bonk Rocks by Link's house.
And Megawatt finds the value of that hint that he hasn't read yet.
Yeah, not having that hint wasn't that big of a deal, just because, like, realistically, you're going to mirror there to drop down anyway, so...
Right.
It's just a difference of walking in and out of a cave.
Alright, so Megawatt located a small key to Ganon's tower there in the chess game. And locates, I believe, the tree pull house. That's what I call it. Because you can pull the Mario painting in the background and get a tree pull.
Megawatt, meanwhile, does find my buddy there. He has a little bit of the lore for this game, if anyone ever chooses to talk to the guy.
Alright, so Megawatt has found another connection to the big island of Lake Hylia. Now, of course, we just had a way to get there with our flippers. Now, but there you go. Probably get a hobo check here, while Incoherent retraces the route that Megawatt took through Eastern Palace.
I'd say in general, it was actually a pretty interesting choice of Incoherent to dive into Eastern. especially with early bow and no Eastern big key, you always just kind of have that desire to avoid the Eastern play, because if you just get one more thing you can full clear, you know?
Yeah, I mean, so I think later in the game it becomes better just because, well, now the odds that that one thing is in Eastern rise, but not just yet, because we haven't seen enough items. Now, when I have neither the bow nor the big key, I'm more inclined to go in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it really does, and though every time I do it, my biggest fear is finding the bow after I've already gotten 4 items from Eastern and not being able to get the Eastern big key.
Speaking of the Eastern big key, Megawott just located it inside the waterfall.
So it's worth noting, I believe Megawott did a dark sequence break to get up Death Mountain to get the flippers in the first place.
The lamp is on the ledge.
That's even more interesting, because it took a dark room to get on Death Mountain with what we've seen, and there's the lamp behind those flippers. I guess we know the completion of the actual loop because you can just take Hyrule Castle and mirror on top of Death Mountain, but
yeah, that's...
if you're Megawatt and you don't know that there's another easy way up Death Mountain, those gears
like,
are probably spinning a bit. Also, like, I know some people like to game the logic more or less than others, but I'm just going to throw out there, if you get a bow, lamp, and Eastern big key right away, the logic's screaming at you. There is one thing it wants you to do.
Yeah, you do the silly Eastern Palace, and you be happy about it. All right, incoherent. Going back to Link's house. While Megawatt is following Spectacle Rock Cave, we'll see if he decides to jump down to Desert Right. He's not doing that. He's instead taking the exit. I think maybe because when he read that hint, he might want to go back up to Dark Death Mountain. Who knows?
Of course, just as well when you read that hint, well, in general, when you see a connector here, your thought is, I still have good value in Light World. When I've seen most of the Light World entrances, my baseline assumption is a connector goes to Dark World, and without Pearl, do I want to put myself in a position to do bunny walks when I could just not?
So, I mean, here's the thing. I like doing bunny walks because I'm a crazy person. But more often than not, if I'm doing things to, try to win a race, which is never going to happen, but that's beside the point. I find that doing bunny walks more often than not just doesn't pay off.
Because, yeah, the bunny walks can be required. We have very large and complicated amounts of code to make that happen, but most of the time you don't have to, and it's just really slow with really poor items per minute, so it should pretty much be your last resort all of the time.
Good, I'm glad you came to the same conclusion on that one. It did take me a few runs before I came to that conclusion. I was like, ooh, I can do this cool thing called moving around with a bunny. And I was like, oh wait, this sucks.
How complicated is that code? Well, That particular piece of code was written by Kevin Cathcart, and I understood it after he explained it twice.
Oh yeah, bunny logic is a real thing. All right, there's that mirror. I mean, not mirror, mushroom. How do I have words? I mean, we do know where the potion shop is, and the witch doesn't move, so could be something hiding at that location. Technically, that mushroom wants you to find the Hyrule Castle small key before it becomes illogic.
Yeah, and this is actually kind of a factor that always concerns me when I'm in a position like these players are. Like, a lot of players are really loving this, like, right away you go to the potion shop entrance, but it's just such a backtrack later with that mushroom. I kind of like to wait.
I can understand that. I know the reason I do it is, or the reason I would do it is just because I keep forgetting to check the potion shop entrance, and it's burned me once or twice. But I'm guessing the other thing they're thinking is, I'll probably find the lamp, or not the lamp, the flute at some point, and I can just get back there. Now, of course, if the mushroom has the flute, well, you're kind of out of luck, but you're betting against that.
So on another side of things, Incoherent just died in Aghanim's tower. He was in a really poor position with just taking a lot of damage dealing with that second blue guard, so he had very little health with which to navigate the dark rooms. We know that item is nothing, so if he never goes back, or only goes back when he has the second castle tower key and is going to finish the dungeon anyway, it's great. But there's always a danger when you die, even with the item is nothing, that you'll go back for the check, and that's just making that time loss a reality.
Oh, yeah. It's basically the worst. Alright, so we've located the item on the big chest of Eastern. That's a heart. I think the real problem Incoherent was having, as opposed to what Megawott was doing, is Incoherent still doesn't have that sword from the bottle vendor. That's the real difference in equipment here.
And I guess really the main thing that could lead him back to that sword is if he decides he wants to dive Misery Mire, he'll almost certainly go back to the Kakariko region. Misery Mire is now in logic with those boots, which is a play I feel a lot of newer to entrance players don't immediately associate boots equals Mire, but it's very much one of those early game connections that comes up.
Yeah, I think Incoherent might be a little less inclined to do it on account of they've yet to locate the fire source for one, and also no cane and no big key. So that's only 4 items available, and it's a much slower 4 items than the ones in, say, Thieves Town or, say, here in Turtle Rock Laser Bridge.
Of course, it's also just as likely Incoherent, after he's done with his business on the mountain, is going to follow Megawatt's footsteps up Zora River and into Eastern, and that'll pay off handsomely with the Eastern big key, the lamp, and our big, beautiful hammer.
Mm-hmm. It's like, so, about that bow, lamp, and Eastern big key, I mean, it was literally yelling at you.
The head that Eastern was the play, so you could beat the enemies over the head with a hammer.
Correct. Alright, I think Megawatt's going to use the mirror here now. Incoherent doing a few laser skips here. Having a little more trouble than Megawatt. They're not like the world's easiest trick to pull off.
So I would like to point out kind of a funny thing that just happened with the hints. So we got the hint earlier, Sahasrara has Quake, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just got a hint, Quake can be found with the Elder.
So one of those was...
hint. There are no duplicate hints in the entrance randomizer.
One of those was
we got a hint for
inconvenient location hint, and the other one was a specific item hint.
Yeah, we basically got two different hints that just happened magically from different mechanisms to have exactly the same information.
So another reason I was messing around with the code earlier is because I wanted a way to include the hints somehow in the spoiler log so that I could then read that spoiler log into my program. And apparently that all gets generated well after the spoiler log is generated. So I'm going to have to adjust things. That's what open source is for, right?
I am a huge believer in the magic of open source. If you have an idea for something cool and someone else has done work that can help you get there, that's what it's all about right there.
All right, Incoherent is following the ferry connector to Ice Palace, which we saw earlier. Megawatt's doing Mimic Cave. I'm guessing we found this earlier. I didn't make a note of it when I saw it. Hey, look, the map of Eastern Palace. Now you're really supposed to have done Eastern Palace.
Yeah, that really lets you know after you have the hammer from Armos Knights that killing Armos Knights is even more valuable.
Hey, does the map and compass requirement not apply in this for the dungeon? You got rid of that?
I'm going to be honest. When I heard they were putting that into the item randomizer, I kind of shook my head and decided I was never implementing that.
Okay. I have no problems with that whatsoever. I just wanted to make sure so I don't get debated by finding a map and compass early.
Yeah, if you find a map and compass, the upside is you can check your map and look at an item counter, and that's what those things do for you.
And then the other thing my brain was thinking about doing was once the hints were generated as part of the world and not as part of the ROM, you could then sort of somehow make sure they never refer to something you'd already have to have it. I don't know if that's something anyone would be interested in, but it's not something that's absolutely necessary at the moment, but it's something that could be looked into.
Man, my ambition ends at making sure we stop getting hints about that Skullwood small key in Skull Woods.
Yeah, true. That is a real thing. Happens a lot. It's like, thanks, game. Because I know, I want to think that they put something into the Ocarina of Time randomizer where you should be able to access a given hint before you need the item it hints about.
Yeah, that was a lot of test runner stuff. He had a lot of concerns, I'll say, about the hint system, and he took it in a lot of pretty powerful directions. But the nature of OTR makes the hints a lot more powerful than in this game anyway.
Right. And yeah, Ocarina of Time randomizer just in general is just a much longer game, and anything you can do to speed that up, I'm all for. And so, but this game, you know, the hints are really just gravy.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out the general sequence we're kind of looking at. Earlier, Megawatt found a connector to East Dark World and chose not to go on a bit of a bunny walk. So he's definitely has to have that in mind. On the other hand, he just got the ability to beat Aga 1.
Yeah, that was the second castle tower key. And we have the boots. And we have the lamp. That might be the Dark World access. That'd be the way to get to the mitts.
So you can get to the mitts via the connector we found. And Megawatt just learned about those mitts. He didn't read the hint earlier. But
wait, what connector did we find? Oh, was it the... No,
I think it was the EDM Ferry connector. I don't remember which particular one it was. I just saw us walk out at Dark Flute 5.
It took you over to Dark Flute 5. Okay, I see.
But yeah, like, going and killing Aga 1 is really appealing now. It opens Cackwell, and it would put you on top of the pyramid instantly to get your mitts and 3 entrances, all of which you can do with Cape.
Mm-hmm.
Megawatt's choosing to do the walk and avoid Aga 1, which is kind of a big decision.
Yeah, if it turns out there's something in that well, that could be pretty problematic.
Yeah, this is kind of another case of the logic screaming at you. Like, it's different, though, because when the logic screams, beat Eastern Palace, you're like, okay, that's fine. I probably wanted to do that anyway. When the logic screams, kill Aga 1, that's when you're like, I don't know.
I feel like I probably would have bit the bullet at this point, just because I was literally handed all the things for it, and it's worth 5 more items.
Well, apparently Eastern was a 5/6 crystal, because we just learned that Eastern and Skull are the 5/6 crystals from your friendly neighborhood bomb vendor, I should say.
Oh, dude! Dude, this is what... I mean, technically you'd need the fire rod, but this is one of those scenarios where you could have the bunny use the big bomb.
I mean, so an issue with this is you could do it, but the logic won't require it. Because one of your 5/6 crystals is Skullwoods. And logically, Moth requires all the Skullwood small keys. Opening chests as a Super Bunny is not required. I know where one of the 3 Skullwood small keys is.
Oh, okay. Alright, that makes sense. Alright. But it's fun that way. I just like the fact that you can use the big bomb as a bunny. And there was this plando that we had the other day where you had to use the big bomb not only to open the big bomb shop, but also to open some other bomb entrances. And it just works. Like, you can use the big bomb to open normal bomb entrances. It's dumb.
Now, to be clear, in the entrance randomizer, by logic,
that
whole super bomb as a bunny, you can totally have to do that. But it will only be for the crack in the pyramid.
Anyway, speaking of logic and bunnies, the bunny is gone. Because we found the Moon Pearl at the... What's it called? The Mini Moldworm Cave on the left side of Hyrule Castle.
So, what's going to be the funnier situation here? Is it going to be when the lumberjack tree has nothing at all, or is it going to be when it has some big key that you don't need until the very end of the game?
Oh, I think it needs to have, like, the big key to Swamp. So, like, you still don't know if you needed it.
Because, like, there's a very real scenario here for Megawatt where he just doesn't do Castle Tower for a very, very long time. And it's really going to affect the tenor of this race, whether it's required or not, because I'd say it's pretty probable that Incoherent will make the different call when he acquires the rest of the resources.
It's entirely possible. But, I mean, Incoherent did just go to the Dark World this way, so he's probably headed to the pyramid himself. Catfish with a piece of heart today. Incoherent does not yet have a bottle, so is unable to get the item from Sick Kid. But that is yet another thing that you can do as a bunny.
And yeah, this is totally a big access seed right now, because on Megawatt's side, he has Pearl, Hammer, Mitts, and Boots, all at the same time.
Yeah, the only thing he doesn't have definitive access to right now is like the Turtle Rock main entrance and the Misery Mire area.
And I think we're about to learn about that Turtle Rock main entrance. If it's Ether, that's going to knock another thing off his list.
In before Quake. No, it's Ether. Yeah, very nice to be able to take care of the Turtle Rock main entrance in your main trip up here. You just don't want to have to revisit if you can help it.
Yeah, I feel pretty strongly that other than the Ganon's Tower entrance, which you obviously only open in crazy scenes, this is the entrance. It's usually the last entrance in the world for an average player, and it brought the value today.
Oh, man. Paradox Cave, 7 items, 2 additional entrances. That's usually quite a bit of value. Though, that being said, I have recently seen the worst Paradox Cave of all time. Like, the entire thing was full of garbage, and both of the entrances were to dead ends.
So, Megawatt discovered the same Southeast Dark World that Incoherent saw much earlier here, learning where that bottom exit of Paradox goes, and looks like we're going to get a little fun in the Turtle Rock Eye Lasers entrance. The big question here always is, how am I going to kill that Pokey? And I think Megawatt's going to have a fun answer if he thinks about it.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways you could do it. I mean, yeah, Ice Rod is a thing. Ice Rod's not quite as effective as Fire Rod on Pokies.
Yeah, Ice Rod's a viable tool, but you can't freeze them, you just hurt them, and it's a lot weaker than Fire Rod. Ether plus Hammer, because Ether does freeze him, and then Hammer instantly kills the frozen in him, would have definitely been the speed strat here. And it's something you see come up just so rarely, so that's why it could have been exciting, but I believe he'll be able to get him down.
I had no idea, so there you go. I didn't know it froze Pokies. I knew it froze a lot of other things, no idea about that, so thanks for the heads up. But there we go, 1 free key. Now, of course, most runners, when you see this left eye entrance, you go ahead and just go for the big key chest here, even though it's not anywhere close to in logic. Just because, at this point, because you found the left entrance, you're probably going to be able to save some keys.
We've seen every entrance at this point other than the front door, so Turtle Rock keys are not going to be very high on the players' minds.
Right. It was the small key to Desert Palace, though, which is pretty interesting. 2 items are hard locked behind that. Then 1 item is logic locked behind that.
Yeah, I've heard Jake Hoper say that is his favorite small key. I don't know if I would agree with all of that, but it is certainly a small key that has quite a bit of value. And we haven't seen the front of deserts, so that could just allow some efficiency down the line for Megawatt.
I feel like my favorite small key is either going to be Thieves Town or Swamp. Swamp just because, I mean, you need it for the whole silly dungeon. And Thieves Town because that way I don't feel bad about finishing Thieves Town.
Yeah, the Thieves Town big key is definitely the peace of mind key, whereas the Swamp one is the, okay, this is actually an important item key.
Right. Yeah, favorite key doesn't necessarily mean, highest value key. It just means your favorite. So that's why I'm up in the air between those.
And the reason I love Twitch chat so much is because I'm pretty sure their favorite one is the Hera key.
That makes sense.
But yeah, Paradox Cave was really pretty bad. The connectors, frankly, worthless. The items weren't any good. But ruling stuff out.
At the very least, you got some information, and information is never worthless. Well, not always. Unless you already had the information.
And now here we have Blind's house, and I don't think this randomizer would be so cruel as to have 2 item-rich locations be garbage in a row, right?
Well, there's a sword, so, I mean, that's not garbage. But the rest of it was.
Yeah, swords are kind of a funny thing because they don't really do anything for you, but they make the game a lot nicer and you need them eventually.
Right. I think Incoherent will finally find his sword when he heads in this entrance here. But he still doesn't have the bottle vendor's sword.
So, I might have confused something with what Incoherent saw, but I thought Megawatt already saw the other end of this connector. Oh yeah, he did. He didn't remember he'd seen both sides of this. Dark connector less traveled, I would call it. And that's a little bit of a time loss walking back and forth through this cave. Not the end of the world, but certainly a small bit of error there.
Yeah, I mean, the only time you ever see that cave in any random or in any game is if you're playing NMG with no save and quit, because that's how you have to go down Death Mountain the first time. And a lot of people just don't remember that thing exists.
Yeah,
Almost.
as long as your rule set doesn't consider the select button a glitch, there's no reason to do that cave without entrance rando.
Alright, so we got the Bombos medallion in the back of Sahasrah's closet. Also, make sure to make a note of where Sahasrah is in case you need the Quake medallion.
Yeah, though that Bombos medallion is super interesting.
Yeah, it grants us access to ice, doesn't it?
Yeah, and if you recall, Misery Mire is also back in CAC, and you have the boots to get in there. I'd say it's not terribly unlikely that your progression is in that general direction.
See, now I'm just trying to come up with an AC/DC song called Back in CAC.
I'm going to be honest, I know so little about music that I feel lucky to have realized that's a band.
Yeah, music isn't everybody's everything. All right, so incoherent. Checking this. Oh, good lord.
So yeah, Megawatt has stepped aside for a minute. I don't know what the story is. It's probably a sudden urge to use the restroom or such, which
Or throw your fist
you
at
don't
the
like to
wall.
see it in a competitive race, but it turns out these are human beings who play these games, and
We're
humans are
not
gonna human.
task bots, unfortunately. Yeah, biology is a thing, unfortunately. Sometimes you just got a biology. And incoherent is doing the Aga Tower climb. Yeah.
Yeah, see, incoherent. This is interesting because incoherent died going for this chest, which seemed like a bad thing. But if there's value at the end of Aga Tower, oh wait, no, he doesn't have the key.
Oh no! Yeah, the key was in the drop down. I think it was the magic bat drop down, which you had to get after you got the hammer.
So we have chat discussing the AI that always lasts locations, Ice Rod, and I'm just happy that AI technology has advanced to the point where they are indeed that human.
I, for one, welcome our new Rendo overlords. What? And incoherent is making use of that cape, which incidentally is the item that put this laser bridge into logic.
And now with his in-logic blue boomerang, he will be on his way.
Yeah, I think he's still got one chest that he hasn't grabbed. No, maybe he grabbed the top one.
Yeah, he got all four because he was in there initially with no magic. And he was just really struggling with laser skips with an amount of health that died in one hit to lasers after a respawn. So he just used the way you can fall to get the top and bottom chest, and he came back later for the middle two. Which, it's not a good thing not to be able to do your laser skips, but it's actually I think it's the kind of play that helps you go far in a tournament, to recognize when something is beyond your skill and be able to not bang your head and just move on.
Right. That's something to keep in mind for, anybody. If you find that finishing it's not happening, just get in there and do something else. Speaking of which, Megawott has located the hookshot in what is usually Hype Cave, today Checkerboard Cave.
So we haven't located Swamp Palace, and we don't have the Swamp Small Key yet, but we have the pieces coming together.
I mean, we located Ganon's Tower. Does that help?
I can't think of a situation in which we've located Ganon's Tower. Does that help? Would be answered with anything other than yes.
What about you have nothing other than the it's the very first entrance you found. I guess you get 2 chests out of it.
Yeah, you get 2 chests and relevant information for your route. There's no situation that walking into Ganon's Tower makes me unhappy. It's like the anti-spiral cave.
Oh, there is Swamp Palace Small Key as well. So speaking of Swamp Palace that we were just talking about, now all we need is to find Swamp, and then you can actually clear it. All right, so Megawott. Oh, yeah, that's right. It was the Sanctuary drop that had the small key in it.
Yeah, and the thing with that is you have to feel behind finding it there if you really believe in the lumberjack, because most players are really religious about those drops early in the game because it's so much guaranteed value. Incoherent doesn't know that Megawatt has bet against Aga Tower, and in this circumstance, he might bet against Aga Tower too. We could totally last location something important there, or even funnier, if it's nothing, we could never see it.
So, speaking of important items, Megawatt just pulled out the big key of Thieves Town there on the left side.
So, a big thing about the Thieves' Big Key, other than its physical size, of course. Oh man, before that, all the value. Ganon's Tower, always happy to see it. What a tower. But
I mean, free sword. I mean, the keys there were not like the world's greatest keys, but at least you have them now. Like the Skullwoods big key unlocks that one item, so there's that.
And like you're set up, like next time you're in the area, you're gonna kill Mothula because there's no reason not to. With Tempered, it's easy, and just everything's good after doing that GT. But with that Thieves Town big key, what I was going to say, this is a big thought you have to have as a player, is the only chest in the back half of Thieves that is in logic without the Thieves small key is the one in the cell. So it's not very likely, if the small key specifically is what you're missing, the game is going to force you to go in there with just the big key. So you'll often see more experienced entrance runners put off Thieves for a long time if that's the only issue.
Right. That's definitely a real possibility. Incoherent, stepping through Turtle Rock here. Now, you mentioned finishing Skull Woods. That would require lighting the torches with the lamp, which is doable, and it's just not guaranteed that everyone knows how to do that. It's not a difficult trick.
Yeah, it's certainly, it is out of logic. I believe, based on my generally what I've seen of both these runners, Incoherent did a more subtle bomb jump in Turtle Rock. Megawatt's just a pretty well-known runner in general. That both these runners wouldn't have a problem killing Mothula with the lamp.
And for those of you who don't know, there's a really easy setup for that bomb jump in Skull Woods, which I learned while playing that Plando you made.
You're down on your Zelda abilities at times, but if you made it anywhere at all in that Plando, you gotta feel pretty good about yourself. I didn't make that to be nice.
I finished it. It took me 19 hours.
I would guess at least half the community could not finish it, so
it was the last.
Feel good about it.
Yeah, it was. It was basically the first Plando I ever played because I'm a masochist, apparently. Anyway. All right, so Incoherent pulling off or getting the one item here in Turtle Rock. I like how that item, if you can reach the Laser Eyes entrance, or if you can cross that gap in front of the big chest, I like how that item right there is in logic with no small keys. It's just like, you can get that.
Yeah, it's one of those funny things because you're really scared when you go for that item the first time. Because you're like, man, Chain Chomps do 4 hearts. I mean, Turtle Rock, it's such a late game dungeon. But once you really grasp their AI and you've done it a couple times with something like bombs, you're like, oh, this room's actually not a difficult room. I just have to be smart.
You may have to take it slow occasionally to make sure you survive, but, it's better to do that than to die. And Incoherent has located Swamp. I didn't quite notice where it was in particular. Ah, chest game.
So Megawatt's definitely on the path for that. Thanks to his mitts, he's going to just route north here. It's actually a very clean route because you can do digging game and then pick up the smith on your way and go on everyone's favorite kind of tour, a Frog World tour.
Mm-hmm. Incoherent has just made his way into Tower of Hera as well, in a location that I'm also assuming was in Village of Outcasts.
Meanwhile, Megawatt has gotten a ton of info, a connector to Misery Mire, and the Mire entrance is Ether. That green pendant's pretty dead.
Green pendant, yeah. The only way we could need it is if we need the other two as well. And that's not, particularly likely.
So that's doubly good because we have a lot of really good progression items so far. I would say the main item we haven't seen that's just a critical progression item is the Cane of Samaria,
right,
which blocks Vitreous, who's our green pendant. And Vitreous might be the slowest boss if you consider the amount of extra time to fight the boss versus full clear the rest of the dungeon.
Yeah, it's a long time to get down there. I know this because dying on Vitreous is terrible.
Yeah, strategically, I have to say the best way to handle dying to Vitreous is don't.
Dot forfeit.
Yeah, I think Vitreous death is the second worst death in the game. The only worst one is Cold Stare death, just because of what it does to your magic. And yeah, we apologize for a little bit of a software hiccup with the tracker. It looks like things are caught back up now. And thanks again for our trackers for their hard work. It is quite a task keeping track of what everyone has. And hopefully they're making it easier for all of you at home.
I was about to mention what Goomba did. The real worst death is Aga 2, but please don't die to Aga 2. Friends don't let friends die to Aga 2. And
I mean, if you die to Aga 2, it saves you time because it sends you a message that you need to go do something else for a while.
There is that. We did just find the big key to Tower of Hera in the right side of Desert. And the right side of Desert, or the entrance that we found to Desert, was actually one of the entrances to Desert. So there's that. And we're going to see Checkerboard Cave entrance. We also see the Old Man Cave entrance. That is a storyteller of sorts. Palace of Darkness at Checkerboard Cave.
So, out of all the dungeons to find in Megawatt's position, in my opinion, Pod might be the worst one. You only have 2 small keys, no big key. You can do a lot here, but slowly.
How about get a fire rod?
I gotta say, there's worse things that can happen to you than getting a fire rod. So maybe he'll be able to deal with finding a suboptimal dungeon if it just has the important progression items in it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, better lucky than good, I guess. Except
I mean, it's not like he chose which dungeon he found either. This is a dungeon I would groan the second I walked in, knowing how good like Swamp and Hera would be for me to find. Then I'd find the fire rod, and my tune would shift in a hurry. I do that on stream all the time. Complain about something and then praise it about 20 seconds later.
Well, there you go. All right, Incoherent has located a bottle now. And Megawatt has the red mail now, so Coward % has been activated.
I mean, If the game let me, I would make my uncle happy and put that red mail back in the chest, but I'm not going to hard reset to please my uncle. He's just got to accept
You deal
that I
with
want to
it.
dress this way now.
Ooh, the small key to Thieves Town. That's actually really interesting, because that, if I'm not mistaken, because we have the hammer and the bow, is completely in logic, even though we have basically with no pod small keys.
You are not mistaken, but you would only need one pod small key to put that particular chest in logic anyway, so it's in logic via every possible route.
Well, all right then. And of course, like I said, having the Thieves Town small key gives you that peace of mind going into the dungeon, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a full-blown Thieves Town dip, though we just did find the Misery Mire big key, so that opens up another item in there as well.
I gotta
Incoherent is
say
going
that
for Spike
Misery
Cave.
Mire big key is probably not one, knowing that that's the green pendant, you're going to be in two. Well, it's not one you're going to be in a hurry to check, because at this point, Megawatt has one definite crystal and one maybe crystal he can full clear that he's found, and he hasn't seen Hera or Swamp yet, but he knows if he finds them, he can do a whole lot with them. So, Pendant Misery Mire is probably not his top priority.
Right. So Incoherent went for Spike Cave. Unfortunately, he did take a death in Spike Cave. Was unable to get the item he was looking for. I think he might be going for the magic refill here, so he can try it again. No, I'm lying. Alright, it's not lying so much as just plain wrong. Alright, we did just see Desert Palace as a crystal on the map check there for Megawatt. And additional map checks. Got Ice Palace, Palace of Darkness, and Skull Woods, all crystals.
So, I'm looking over.
It looks like Incoherent has located the swamp map, apparently, and knows that that's a pendant.
Like, as incredible as it is, only an hour 12 in, you have to be looking for Megawatt's side. What do you actually need for go mode? He spent both his pod smalls, so he does need another pod small to finish, and he needs the pod big. He needs a desert big, and he needs the red cane if Turtle Rock is a crystal, but at this point, there's actually a pretty good chance Turtle Rock's a pendant. It is amazing how quickly we're this close.
I think especially given the fact that very few Turtle Rock keys have been found, kind of increases the probability that it's a pendant at this point.
I don't think that's true, because being a non-5/6 crystal, like, you're going to be able to get everything before you beat Ganon anyway. So unless you think the GT entrance is probably important, which it's just as likely to be nothing, you usually can't read too much into that.
All right. So Megawatt is doing the same thing that Incoherent just did. And there's Megawatt's third additional pod small key that he needs.
So yeah, Megawatt's sitting real pretty here, because he's about to find Swamp and Hera, which I don't believe he's seen Desert Final. No one's seen Desert Final, actually. But we're quickly getting to the point where you're listing off what's left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we gotta get the... Or we more than likely... We we might need the Cane of Samaria. And we definitely need the Desert Big Key, as you said. That's
And the Pod Big Key.
and the Pod Big Key. And then, other than that, it depends on Thieves Town or Turtle Rock.
Yeah, we're about to finish Tower of Hera here.
Yeah.
Which we'll see if it's a crystal or pendant. And
if it's a pendant, we know we need both of those things.
We don't... Okay, so we as viewers know that
Megawatt
Swamp is a pendant. Megawatt, in his mind, Swamp is likely to be a crystal as anything else.
Right. We did find a small key to Ice Palace and a small key to Ganon's Tower there in Tower of Hera.
I would like to say shoutouts to our trackers who have gotten in the habit of this tournament of differently marking the crystals based on which player knows about pendants crystals, because that is actually a really important point that tells a whole lot about why players do what they do as you get into the late game.
Megawatt takes a double fall to Moldorm, unfortunately. Sometimes it just happens.
Yeah, you feel really bad about falling down the middle hole to Moldorm with the gold sword and the cape, so you could have just caped against this boss, but it's what happened. You messed up big, just dust yourself off and keep going.
Get back on the horse, or in this case, the worm.
And we do have a crystal, so that definitely works in favor of the hypothesis that this could be a caneless seed. Oh man, how incredible would it be if the Cane of Samaria were behind Aga 1 and we never see it?
Oh my. That is a big deal. Yeah, I think Goomba's on the right track. I think in this scenario, so Megawatt is going to clear the dungeons he doesn't know about, because that's one way to know for sure whether or not you need them, is to go do them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like finding Swamp, not knowing if Swamp's pendant or crystal. We know he's getting a pendant here. He has no way to know, and it's not even that bad because Swamp is so item dense that there's not terrible odds that this helps him out, even if, in his case, even when it's not what he needs.
Yep. I don't remember seeing what was on the floating island, but we did find the entrance to it.
Yeah, I didn't see that either. It's something I keep a careful eye out for when I'm playing, but commentating, I'll say, I don't know, but for their sake, I hope they do.
Yeah. I imagine the fact that Incoherent did not use the mirror immediately probably indicates that there's nothing important there.
Yeah, that's a really common thought process in general, where when you see something good, your mind instantly latches on, oh yeah, there's where good thing is. When you see something bad, someone could ask you 3 seconds later, what was that? I don't know.
Exactly. Your brain does not have room for that irrelevant information. This is...
I mean, the sprites for a 10 arrow, a 3 bomb, and a piece of heart might as well be the same sprite, right?
Yeah, I mean, they look the same to me. I don't know about you. Did we see Super Bunny Cave on Megawatt's screen?
I know he saw the entrance to it, but he chose not to go through it. I don't know if he's seen the back. I kind of think he hasn't, so this could be some new ground.
Red boomerang. All right. So, additional lag frames acquired.
Hey,
Ooh.
between the two boomerangs in this game, the red boomerang is definitely one of them.
That is true. But we did find my favorite entrance in the game, which is the entrance that the hints refer to as the Southwest Death Mountain Foothills Cave. I love that entrance because it throws people off so much. People don't even realize it's there and that you have to mirror to it. And basically, it's a rite of passage when you start playing Entrance Randomizer to get trolled by that entrance. Once you've gotten trolled by that entrance.
Or after the seed where you learn to mirror on top of the castle?
Probably. I think to me it happened before. Just because I never had to mirror on top of the castle until quite a bit later. But yeah.
So, first of all, I'll point out we got the Desert Big Key off Argus, so required pendant boss kill. Not finding that map
good.
worked purely to Megawatt's advantage. And to answer a bit of a question in chat about the boomerangs, first of all, most Link to the Past players are kind of memeing when they talk about how much better one boomerang is than the other. They're nearly identical in actual value. The sparkles created by the red boomerang are the same as the sparkles created by silver arrows. In rooms with lots of other sprites, they create a little bit of lag. So that's kind of a bad thing. But it flies twice as far and twice as fast, so that can sometimes be good. And
so if you have built your entire strategy around having the blue boomerang, it can really throw you off. Like, for example, going through the left side of Ganon's Tower, a lot of people learned the blue boomerang strats. When you try to play 100% and you have to use red boomerang strats, it's completely different.
yeah, except the thing about that is, so when I was learning this game, there's a million different room strats you learn, and you're trying to save time, you're trying to pick up stuff from the speedruns, and I was having trouble with the boomerang strat in those Ganon's Tower rooms, and I asked ACMLM, who I consider a very credible person for all things Link to the Past speedrunning, how much time does it save to use the blue boomerang strat optimally versus just using the red cane? He told me 2 seconds, and I have never attempted that boomerang strat again.
Sounds good. Sounds entirely good.
But yeah, in terms of the actual value of these boomerangs, which is, I promise, the last thing I'm saying about boomerangs this stream, with Quick Swap, they're a lot better because the main reason you don't use boomerangs much is because they save just small amounts of time and you don't want to menu to them. But here, that's not a problem.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Megawatt finishing off Desert Palace. That's sitting in the east or the C-shaped house location. And Megawatt now going to the back of Skull Woods to finish that off. The Fire Rod puts this entirely in logic, though it can be done without.
It's faster with Fire Rod, though, so you gotta feel pretty good about that. And yeah, Megawatt skipped left side swamp, but
I think it's the right play.
Possibly one item from Go mode, and swamp isn't hard to return to. You'd have to be nuts not to skip it in this situation.
Yeah, the whole, I think the thing that Megawatt needs to do, first and foremost, before really doing anything else, is get the knowledge about the crystals that he needs. So I would do my best to get over to Thieves Town as quickly as I could, because I know I can complete that. And then I'll know whether I need the Cane of Samaria. And who knows, I might find the Cane of Samaria along the way.
And on our other side, if you want this race to stay competitive, like Incoherent's actually doing pretty well. He has most of the progression items. He's kind of on a route where he's about to get a lot of the same keys that Megawott has. And honestly, like, he's just probably about 10 to 15 behind. He needs that pod big key to not be easy. Because if that pod big key is easy, and if Turtle Rock is a pendant, Megawatt's going to get a crazy good time. And it's one of those times that when you're racing, you just see someone drop it and you go, what did I even do wrong?
Excuse me? Exactly. Granted, I do that, anytime anyone finishes, sub 2 hours, because I'm just like, yep. Megawatt mirroring into creeper percent.
I mean, he got snitched on. Everyone has a hobby. That woman's hobby is snitching.
Yep. Next time I run into one of those ladies, I'm gonna come back with some arrows and shoot them. That way the snitches can get stitches. I'm done.
I'm remembering all the text about the sewing kit and the arrows, and that makes that pun even worse than it already was.
I know.
But yeah, here's another kind of moment of this race in terms of if you want Incoherent to have a really good chance to catch up. Megawatt's just going for Ice Palace without the big key, which is really pretty justifiable. You're really close to go mode. You know this is a crystal. Not bad odds you just find something good here, and you never need that stupid big key. But there's that same element of danger to this play. If Pod Big Key's an Ice Big Chest, Megawatt just lost a mega mountain of time.
Yeah, he did just find out that the big chest of Thieves Town is just a heart piece, so that'll make the Thieves Town play a little quicker. That's another great thing about Ice Palace. 3 hints, so you can get additional information just from coming to Ice Palace.
Yeah, somehow all that never has really moved me to go to Ice Palace any earlier than I would have otherwise.
It hasn't really done that for me in Entrance. I think in normal, in just plain item randomizer, it might have a couple of times. But I still don't want to go into Pendant Ice Palace without the hammer. Thanks, game. I'm not salty at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, I'd rather go into Pendant Ice Palace without the hammer than Crystal Ice Palace without the hammer.
Fair enough, fair enough.
But yeah, Incoherent just wrapping up the front of Skullwoods, finding not really a whole lot of anything so far. We're probably going to get a check of the back of Skull entrance, which is, I think, conventionally considered one of the more annoying entrances to check. But given that both players found the Fire Rod in pretty good order, it's not going to be an issue in this run today.
Is that one of the entrances that's on the list of inconvenient entrances?
it is not only on that list, but in almost every test seed I did, it had a hint for it, and that was pretty funny.
Very nice. I think it's got the back of Skull Woods. It's got that Southwest Foothills cave that I was talking about earlier. Ganon's Tower.
Mimic Ledge, Ice Palace, Vanilla Mire, Vanilla Turtle Rock.
Ah. Cool.
That's probably the list of all your favorite places to go.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Well, not all of them, but yeah. I also like the back of Race Game. All right, just a ferry in the Skull Woods area. We were getting a mirror there. I thought for a second we might see a pedestal check, but nah. Oh, he doesn't have the book. Never mind.
I mean, he could have pedestal checked in the sense he could have checked if the pedestal was there, but yeah. I think his call was a pretty good one.
Wait, has he not found Ganon's Tower? Huh.
So, if I read the new tracker without the doors, it says he has, and it doesn't have it marked for Megawatt when we know he's been there. But
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he just doesn't have a book.
The torch in Ganon's Tower, was it not? Maybe he just didn't go into Ganon's Tower.
So, I mean, Megawatt is working on maximum snitch percent, and that's...
I mean, he's already done 100% snitch. He's got both of them.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Incoherent has not been in Ganon's Tower yet, which... It'll be fine for him, because we know Ganon's Tower was a treasure trove, so that's actually kind of reassuring, because it means that he's less behind than the tracker makes it look.
Right. Alright. We have finally returned to Thieves Town for Megawatt. There are 3 items that he will want to look at in here, because he already found out about the big chest. And one of those items... I guess technically 4 items if you count the prize. And let's be fair, the prize is the one he's the most interested in.
Yeah, this is a very big moment in this race. If any of these 3 items are the red cane, then the prize's value decreases significantly. If they're the pod big key, that could blow the seat open, and then just the big question is Turtle Rock a crystal?
Or the other question is, do you have the intestinal fortitude to hover the Trinex gap? How about no?
Like, some people really like seeing hovering. If this race came down to that, I have no idea if either of these players can hover. Even if they can, hovering the Trinex gap would be unprecedentedly insane. I would be heartbroken to see this race go that way.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, if you can do it and if you learn to do it for this purpose, it's, you know, completely valid and reasonable to use. That being said, it could be a huge waste of time if you sit there trying it over and over.
Oh, Ack. You're able to break my heart any day of the week you want.
Ack breaks hearts every day for a living. Oh, Megawott went for the big chest anyway. Alright, bombs on the maiden chest, and just heading for blind now.
So I would like to throw out there, even if this is the pendant, Cane of Samaria isn't that bad of a go mode because it blocks a lot of stuff. It's much scarier if this pod big key stays at large for a long time, because that can be anywhere.
Yup. All over the place, including that well that we were talking about earlier that nobody wants to go do now. Or, you know, top of Ganon's tower, that sort of thing. Speaking of Ganon's tower, and it is a pendant. So Cane of Samaria is going to be required today.
You know, you're talking about the top of GT and the well, and it's not even that hard to imagine the GT big key is in the well, and either the cane or the pod big key is atop the tower. That's not even crazy talk.
Well, speaking of the well, Megawatt's just going for it right now.
You know, actually, this is pretty fine. So, Megawatt only really lost the time so far of the Dark World walk over to the Mitts. He's at a pretty good overworld route, and he's always had really high value plays to make, right through the point where he killed Blind. So even if this is a critical progression item, he hasn't really lost much versus what would have happened if he fought this right away. Of course, if it's nothing, he's going to feel bad about having put it off and then not been able to cash in the end.
Right. I mean, you could also be thinking, oh, my opponent did this hours ago. Why?
What a hint. The pod big key is in Ganon's tower, which means it's either in the big chest, which would be funny, or it's on right side GT.
I mean, it could still be up the top of Ganon's tower, right? Or is that a specific? You get a specific message of up Ganon's tower when that happens.
Yeah, it's the difference between in or atop. In is basement, atop is climb.
Interesting.
Yeah, the thing to remember is every dungeon has two possible hints other than castle tower. Most of them, it's just in the dungeon or with the boss. For the castle, it's in the castle or in the sewers. For Ganon's tower, it's in Ganon's tower or atop Ganon's tower.
Well, all right then. So it could be that we need to find our items in a slightly different order than we were thinking. The cane would need to come first, and then perhaps the pod big key after that.
With your corner possibility that the Ganon's tower big key could throw all kinds of wrenches into your plan.
Yeah. Could have the Ganon's tower big key locking the cane upstairs, which then locks the...
Oh, and it kills you too, because if you get the GT big key, you're obviously going to go to GT big chest, seeing if it's pod big key, because it very well could be, and then you're going to end up having to go back to right side anyway.
All right, so Megawatt is mirroring from the pyramid in front of the gate so you don't get teleported back. I did notice how the logic made a significant difference between the courtyard and the outside of Hyrule Castle, specifically due to that portal. Technically, I think everything inside there, unless you get there through the connector, requires the mirror.
Yeah, but remember, the Uncle Drop is a connector
Right,
that
it
works 6 out of 7.
Right. All right, so... Okay, big key is swamp. We had a small key to pod. Oh, big key again in tower. Uh-oh.
Oh man, we have some calls to make, and I have a feeling Megawatt's going to go to GT, and
I mean, yeah,
he's probably going to go upstairs.
Given that hint, I would probably go straight for the big chest if I knew that it meant only downstairs. Which, to be fair, if I hadn't done this commentary, I might not have known. Probably should have. Should probably read the documentation a little better. Or a little more closely. It's all very well documented.
Yeah, I do feel like in versus a top is a thing that not everyone is aware of. In Megawatt's mind, he probably thinks the pod big key is probably up here. But it's not the worst thing in the world, because this is honestly one of the best places, one of the best places he could go to look for the Cicada Samaria anyway.
Oh, look, he's changing his mind. He was going upstairs and he decided, nope. So we're going to see the big chest, it looks like. Oh, he skipped Firebar Room apparently as well. Which I guess is something you do when you enter Ganon's Tower with no Ganon's Tower keys. Oh no, he didn't skip it.
Yeah, at the time he spent all of his GT small keys in order to check it, which worked out just fine for him, really. Because he has 2 more now, that's plenty to full clear GT no matter what order he does things.
Yep. Just don't open the middle door for some silly reason.
On the other side, as we explore some different untouched ground, we have Incoherent returning the purple chest. I didn't see what the Smith had. Judging from the tracker, it seems like it was probably not very good.
All right, Megawatt going to the big chest of Ganon's Tower. What is it? It's the pod big key. All day, every day.
So yeah, we are in Kane Go mode. That is a thing that has happened in this game.
Does that make it Phantom Ryu mode, I guess? I don't know.
I mean, wasn't his gimmick about finding the cane, so when you're not finding the cane, it's like the opposite, right?
Yeah. Well, it would just be like you're waiting for Phantom Ryu to come out of the woodwork and scream at you. It's like Phantom Ryu is John Cena in this case.
So I didn't keep super careful track of what the drops are, but I think the top of the pyramid leads to the useless fairy, right?
I believe so. I don't think I saw the useless fairy at any point. But yeah, that Aga 1 play definitely required to get that Ganon's Tower big key. Compass of Turtle Rock, super important there in the purple chest, and by super important I mean nope. Oh, Polyganon, you're killing me, and I love it.
And yeah, I totally agree with this play to go right back to Palace of Darkness. You're getting your 6th crystal, and if Samaria happens to be here, all your problems are solved. And if it doesn't, well, you had to do it anyway.
Yeah. And I believe he should be able to actually clear out every chest in here.
Incoherent having a little bit of difficulty with Checkerboard Cave. He didn't seem quite sure which of the blocks were pushable. Probably just a momentary brain fart. But he has his hook shot, and as we can recall from Megawatt's side, he's about to find Ganon's tower, which is going to do a lot to catch him up in this race in terms of resources.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's going the wrong way for Ganon's tower. Maybe he'll head back. Oh no, he's going through Spiral Cave. No!
I mean, going through Spiral Cave, it's just always a convenient thing to find, and whatever decision you make with how to handle it never works against you, right?
Of course. I think we've now seen all the Turtle Rock small keys.
And yeah, in terms of the silver arrows, while neither player here would say no to silver arrows, I'm pretty sure both are the caliber of runners where, especially with the good swords they have and good mail and million hearts, they're not too scared of having to do silverless when it comes down to it.
I think my grandma could do gold sword silverless. If she were alive. But
yeah,
honestly, my grandma...
Really, the one
thing
that would make it hard for my grandma.
My grandma taught me how to play Zelda when I was little, and it's real cool.
To answer the question, Ganon will not give you the silver hint until you have all the crystals. So the silver's hint only helps you if you're ready to finish the game and don't believe you can beat Ganon. Which, most of the time, the way you find that out is you died to Ganon and you were told the silvers were somewhere and you're like, I can just go get that.
Alright, Incoherent has located Ganon's tower. He's going to get the book. He's going to head left here, get the Swamp Palace small key. And then he's going to continue left, I imagine, get the Thieves' Town big key. If only he had the other Castle Tower key when he went up Aga Tower, could have had the Ganon's Tower big key.
And of course, we know that Swamp Palace small key is critical because the Desert Palace big key is dropped by Argus, which in a way makes it a very long fetch quest with Incoherent already knowing Swamp's a pendant, but it's pretty easy to make the call to jump into Swamp with its high item densities, so I don't imagine that'll elude him for too long.
Alright. So Megawatt now heading to the backside of Pod to sort of clear out the remainder of the chest. Having to do things in a little bit of an awkward way due to the way the keys have been spent. But there's really nothing you can do for that.
Yeah, Megawatt thinking a bit better of it, realizing the more efficient route is what he's doing now, which is to check the big key chest and this bottom chest, because that's 2 chances at Cane of Samaria, and if you get it, you don't have to go back for the big chest, and if you don't, you're already most of the way toward the loop back anyway.
I didn't realize he never got the bottom chest down here. That's in logic way earlier.
Yeah, when you don't want to open the middle door...
And it's the cane! Could have had that hours ago!
Now, see, that's a funny thing. Because you see that Cane of Samaria, part of you's like, oh man, I could have had that. I would have been in go mode a while ago. But the other part of you's like, you know, if I did have that Cane, I would have done a lot more in Turtle Rock. I would have done right side GT before I got the hint about where. Before I got the hint about where the pod big key was, it totally saved my bacon. It might have actually saved Megawatt time to skip the Cane of Samaria, and that's just sometimes how the game goes.
Who knows?
But yeah, Megawatt's in go mode, and he only needs one more crystal, and it's only Trinex, which Gold Sword Trinex is about as free as Fighter Sword Trinex isn't, so he's going to easily have a sub 2 hour time.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I think he was headed up to where he had marked Turtle Rock on his tracker and then realized, wait, that's Mimic Ledge. I can't get there from here. So he took the one path he could to get there. And Incoherent finishing off Ice Armos in relatively short order.
Yeah, and I think in this case, Incoherent's on a pretty good path to finish with a lot of value, but there's not really anything that's going to change this. He's just way too many crystals behind.
Is he going to Pyramid Fairy? I think he's going to Pyramid Fairy.
And yeah, the thing about it is, I don't hate this play at all based on the knowledge Incoherent has. Because both 5-6 crystals were pretty easy, pretty early. This is literally the fastest possible Super Bomb return you can ever be asked to do.
What? Okay, this game literally just hands things out for free. The silver arrows acquired for on Trinex, so just like, sure, you thought you were going to have to do Silverless Ganon. How about no?
But oh man, you know, we're talking about skipping Aga 1 a bit in chat. Imagine a world where you just didn't do that. You had the GT big key your first time in GT. You got the pod big key from the big chest your first time through. You would have had more pod keys when you found pod. I mean, this could be a world record seed if either of them had committed to Aga 1.
Oh my goodness. I mean, neither of them had both keys the first time they found Aga Tower, though. That was the real problem.
Megawatt had the keys at a time it would have made sense to go back. Incoherent got really unlucky with his sequencing.
Right. All right, so Megawatt heading to the Ganon area. Not finding the flute this seed, so he can't just flute over to 3. But turned out to not really matter this time.
Yeah, Megawatt didn't bother with those silly unrequired items like the flute.
All right, Megawatt on to Gold Sword Ganon with silvers. Blink and you will miss it. Doing dash strats, even though they are decidedly unnecessary.
I'm not gonna lie, I blinked like 5 times when you said that.
Okay. That's fair. A little hyperbole. Going around here. We got Incoherent going to Thieves Town, which is a perfectly reasonable play at this point.
Yeah, I don't know where the Thieves Town map is. Probably in Misery Mire. You're not going to find it. You're just going to do your thing, finish the game.
That almost looked like he was going to fall off there, but managed to save it just fine. Ooh. And a little bit of menuing with the arrows. Seems like Megawatt might be a little nervous just knowing how well this seed treated him. He's like, how is this happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was a pretty terrible Ganon fight, but at the end of the day, it cost him maybe 20 seconds. He didn't fall. He'll move on with his life and in the tournament. Good game, Megawatt.
And well done for an official time of 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 31 seconds. Megawatt completes the seed, and real good time, real good run, and I am super impressed with this mess.
Yeah, and according to SRL, that is a PB for Megawatt by 13 minutes, which you never know if those are real because a lot of people have run a lot of entrance seeds that weren't tracked by the SRL race spot. But that little PB message, it still always brings a smile to your face to see right after you hit .done.
Mm-hmm. And we are now joined by Megawatt, the winner of this race. Congratulations, and what a time, sir.
Yeah, thanks. PB'd by like 13 minutes according to IRC chat. So certainly a hell of a time. First time getting a sub 2 in an entrance seed anyway.
Well done.
Pretty thrilling.
So yeah, you found a lot of good stuff quickly and continuously.
Yeah,
I want to say you paid off whoever programmed this. Should I go check my mailbox?
Yes, you should. Speak no more. Speak no more of this. At least not.
But yeah, that was a well done piece of work. So talk us through some of the logic here. We had you had that required Aga Tower play. How early in your mind were you thinking, oh man, I'm gonna have to do Aga for the well?
I was thinking very early it was going to be in logic for like Moon Pearl or something, and I was just thinking like, oh, Flute's just somewhere out there in Sphere Zero that I haven't found yet, and that's going to be my access to Death Mountain, to get my lamp, and all that other good stuff, including the flippers. And then that would eventually lead into a Moon Pearl at the well, or something like that, just because of how early I got those 2 Castle Tower keys, plus plus the sword, plus the lamp.
And also, how about how hard the seed pointed you at Eastern Palace?
that was pretty interesting. I actually made the play straight into Eastern really early when I found it, just because like, oh, what are the chances I'm going to stumble across the bow or the big key within a reasonable amount of time from now? Like, what's the chance of both in Sphere Zero and I'm just wasting my time double dipping? So, luckily,
they weren't Sphere Zero.
Well, yeah, but luckily there was a pretty well placed connector to just get me over there and get me back on track with what I was doing in Hyrule Castle. So that was nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking of that Hyrule Castle, that of course was the logical way to get up the mountain and get the flippers, which made the whole seed start going, was the Hyrule Castle connector to GT to Mir.
I never actually even thought of that, I'll be honest. I was still confused for the longest time as to where the flute was, because I knew it had to be somewhere. I wasn't even thinking.
And that's the other
went
part
in
of
the
puzzle.
cave where the flute was.
Dude, where was it?
It was in the southwest Dark Death Mountain cave where the
Super Bunny Cave?
graveyard ledge was.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, it was the graveyard ledge.
Oh,
Yeah, you saw that cave as a bunny and you never went back, which honestly, I don't think going back would have saved you time.
Yeah. Looking back on it, I don't think it would have. I mean, there were a few nasty traversals that just cost a bit of time, like the very last ending stretch there when I ran all the way over to Ganon, just because like there were no well-placed saving quit points. Like Sanctuary was in probably the worst spot, and the Old Man Cave was in a potentially nice spot, but it didn't really end up doing anything for me in this seed. Although the back of it was pretty nice.
And it looks like Incoherent has joined us after, throwing the towel in a little bit here. But still, well played on your part, and you were, pretty close to actually getting things done.
GG's Incoherent.
GG's. Yeah, I have, 4 things left for Go Mode or something. I just wanted to finish out Thieves Town and figure out if I actually had the last pendant or not.
Gotcha.
So, the last thing you needed to do... so the next thing you needed to do, I think, was probably go up Agate Tower, because the Ganon's Tower big key was in the well, and the Ganon's Tower big chest contained the Palace of Darkness big key. The cane was in Palace of Darkness. It was in the basement chest, the one that I think both of you skipped.
Yep.
Yep, I skipped straight past that.
That's a particularly nasty one to have to double back for on your first dip if you don't have 5 keys. So it's just like, what's the worst it could be?
I had 3, so I didn't do that part because I didn't want to go back.
Same.
But yeah, the fun thing about that is everything behind that cane, other than Trinex and his crystal and his silly silver arrows, had to be bad. So it was not a bad thing to put off finding that cane.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't unlock that much stuff. It's just basically Vitreous and part of Turtle Rock. And I was kind of hoping Turtle Rock was a pendant and I wouldn't need it.
I'm actually very happy that it ended up being my Go Mode item, just because if I had it sooner, if I was, say, something as nasty as the Palace of Darkness big key for Go Mode with where it was located, if I ended up finding the cane first, I would have definitely been baited into mire. Probably before I made the Agate Tower play and just saw the tell-all hint of where the Palace of Darkness big key even was. And
yeah, that was
cleared out a good amount of Turtle Rock.
Yeah, that was a hint in Agate Tower, actually, to say the Palace of Darkness big key is in Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, I wondered about that, but I kept having more stuff to do, and okay, we'll put it off.
So Megawatt, were you aware of the specific meaning of that Ganon's Tower hint?
How do you mean?
It just means it's not up the tower.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah, because the 2 hints for Ganon's Tower, there is one that says in Ganon's Tower, and then there's one that says atop Ganon's Tower.
Ah, okay.
And the 4 chests up top are the ones where it says atop.
I guess
we were informed of that by Amazing Ampharos while we were commentating. So
it's a good thing I decided to double back on the tower climb, though, when I realized I didn't want to go all the way back to GT after. Well, actually, no, I could have just mirrored, couldn't I? Yeah, I didn't have to kill Aga for any reason, because I believe the drop down in the pyramid was the useless one. So yeah, I could have just mirrored. I didn't think of that. It's a good thing I didn't. I also would have climbed the tower.
I totally thought you were about to climb the tower, just find the red cane up there, mirror, finish GT, and be in Go Mode, but it went a little differently than that.
Whew.
That was a fun seed, though. So much stuff so quickly. Bunch of options.
I'm always worried about those sort of seeds. Okay, I can do everything now, and one of them is the right answer. And so that when I got the hook shot really late, I'm like, well, great.
Yeah, honestly, Incoherent, you had it pretty rough with some sequencing stuff that weren't really misplays, just things didn't work out. When you went back to Castle Tower for the second chest and you didn't have the second key at the time, I'm going to guess if you had the second key, knowing where the well was, you probably would have done it. That would have really helped you. And then just finding the hookshot Ganon's Tower pair in the last place you went. You could start your Dark World loop anywhere.
There was
that was just really
location,
unfortunate.
So I knew I was doing that one last on that pass. Just okay, the hookshot is here. That's helpful.
So the other thing you were missing was the Desert Palace big key, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was on Argus. So, yeah, you needed the hook shot for that.
Oh, I had to do Swamp Palace. Okay, cool. Definitely not doing all that in any reasonable amount of time for the viewers.
Yeah, that's kind of why finding GT early was so important, because GT and the hook shot were really close together, and if you had both of them, you just got that swamp small. It would bait you into swamp, which you would almost feel like it was a waste for Pendant Swamp, and then when Argus dies, the Desert Big drops, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I was pretty happy when that happened, because like I saw the big key, and I still didn't know at the time whether Swamp was crystal or pendant, but the big key like validated my time spent in there, so I was pretty happy to see that, even if it didn't end up being a crystal.
Yeah, and at the very least, you found out that it was a pendant, so
Yep.
you got that information right away. So that's, yeah, we were thinking, you'll probably do Swamp, you'll probably do Thieves Town just to see if that's the crystal, and then if not, you need the cane. All right. So this has been an excellent race to watch. I had a great time. I don't know about you guys, but I had a great time watching and commentating. Anything else you guys would like to say before we wrap it up here?
I don't know, that was just an exceptionally fun seed. Probably the most fun I've ever had with a seed, just because of how fluidly my routing worked out for at least like the first half of it, even if it wasn't as great later on, but it was still pretty good overall, I think.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff in there. Hopefully I entertain the viewers. I want a clip of that, me and Castle Tower firing the ice rod at the guard that doesn't actually take damage from the ice.
Yeah, I noticed that. Those guards are deceptively problematic, and I mean, we kind of knew you were having bad luck with sequencing.
I
From the
really should have
moment
hooliganned.
that Megawatt grabbed that sword, and it's like, oh man, he has no reason to go back. And then that was just the epitome of, there was a free sword that makes this free, and he has no good weapons for this, and it's just really unfortunate.
I had a bow.
Yeah,
That's not exactly ideal for Dark Agate Tower.
Yeah.
Alright, folks.
Oh well.
That was a short one. I gotta admit, I'm not all too angry because it's already past 4 a.m. in the morning. So,
Did you get a good nap in there, Tresco?
no.
Well, why not?
I'm sorry.
Well, there's 2 more streams. I had to do a little stuff on the side, but that's fine, It was still a nice match to watch. So, yeah. GG to Megawatt, and still, even if it didn't turn out great, GG to you as well, Incoherent. Not sure, because I didn't really check, I gotta admit, who you're facing next. Here we go.
I believe I'm facing the winner of Chexhuman and Sabotender.
Oh yeah. Sabo
But
actually
I
just
can't
won
save
his match
for
today.
Incoherent.
Yeah.
Sabo won against Death King 2, I believe, and he
Yes.
was on to face Chexhuman in
That
women's
was
group.
yesterday, actually. Alright.
And just so everyone has the complete info, Incoherent will be playing the loser of F. Coughlin versus Febreze Ninja, which will be played tomorrow.
You're faster than me, AA. God damn it. Alright. I want to give a warm shout out to Dr. Bobtastic and to Amazing Ampharos for doing the commentary. Not only that, but also to Itsurimo and to Mama Sheepy for doing tracking. This has been a crazy tournament day with, I believe we had 8 matches today of the tournament. So, no, yeah, 8 matches seems about right. So yeah, that was amazing. Everybody really pushed for it so we could provide coverage for all of them, and we did, which is awesome. 3 more matches are coming up tomorrow, and right now we are still not done with the Link to the Past randomizer for the day or the night. Please check out Zelda Speedruns 2 and Zelda Speedruns _3. Please don't ask why the underscore is. I don't want to talk about it.
I'm assuming somebody somebody got to it before you could.
Not only 3, sadly. But yeah, that's how it is. So yeah, if you want to check, go to, if I quickly type it in chat, Zelda Speedruns 2 for the match between Slim Kirby and Mystic. That's round 1 match. And if you are interested in a round 2 match, go to twitch.tv/Zelda Speedruns _3, which is the match between Dazed Cloud and SAGTG. That one started a little later, so it might have a little more content for you left. Alright, folks. We'll definitely check out one of the streams via host or raid now. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you all have a nice remaining of the day or a good night. Thanks everyone for watching and for volunteering. That's really important. So yeah, thanks again.
See you later, everybody.